All right, today's training, how to bring your new patient marketing in-house and successfully bring in niche patients. I'm all about niche patients. You can ask me questions about that later. So we're going to learn how to run local ads. Okay, local ads are very important. We'll get into that here in a minute. Learn how to get qualified leads and learn how to take control of your marketing. Okay, so when I sent out that email, I made some pretty bold claims like, hey, we're going to teach you how to do this and how it can be done in under 2 hours, basically. Well, 2 hours and, excuse me, 2 hours and 6 minutes, right? We'll get to what that number actually means. And so I know there's a lot of people that show up with some hesitancy and they're thinking, listen, you can't really learn Facebook ads that quickly. Okay. Well, here's one thing I'm going to do. Right now, I'm going to double down. I'm actually going to double down. I will tell you, you will know more about Facebook ads and be able to run your own successful lead generation campaigns than any agency you've ever worked with. I know because I've trained many of them. I used to have a mastermind and a training course that trained them. And what I'm about to show you will cut through all the fat and show you how advertising actually works. And when you get done, my goal is that you say, hey, man, I am never going to get taken advantage of ever again by an agency with a fancy sales pitch. I know exactly how this works, and I know how to make it successful. So whether you decide to do it yourself, work with somebody else, you will have the skill set and the knowledge to do that. Okay, fair enough. You guys want in on that? All right. The only person I can see nodding is Dan, and Dan says he's in. So I'm going to just say we're all in with Dan. All right, let's get it. So you're ready. Let's go. So how to run local Facebook ads like a pro. Now there's a very important thing there. Local. A lot of times when we hear people, whether it's on podcasts, courses, anything else, we hear them talking about fancy targeting, interest stuff, income things, all of these little tricks, these little wave of a magic wand that you can do with Facebook ads. And while it is true that targeting capabilities are available within Facebook, it is not true that you should use those with a local Facebook marketing campaign. In fact, if you were to use all of these fancy targeting things within Facebook, you will basically be putting gas inside of a diesel truck. I did that one time. It doesn't work. In fact, it cost me a lot of money. I had to get my fuel tank flushed out. Luckily, I didn't turn the key on and it went into my fuel system. I just had to get the tank cleaned out. All right. These two things, here's what I'm trying to say. These two things are not the same. I'm being emphatic before we jump in, because I don't want you to say, well, I've heard that you can do interest targeting, that people interested in chiropractic care, or I've heard that you can do, well, people who have this income level. If you do that in local advertising, you're going to shoot your campaign in the foot before it gets started. You're going to be putting the wrong kind of gas in the wrong kind of vehicle. All right. So that's where we start. And I know a lot of you are thinking, what? That's not what my agency told me. Well, that's what's true. Okay. And I'll show you how that works here in just a second. So if it's not all about the fancy targeting and things along those lines, how should we conceptualize what it's like to run ads on Facebook? All right, we've got somebody that needs to mute, please. Gotcha. I think we're good. Okay, so how should we conceptualize how local Facebook advertising works in your brick and mortar business? Well, let's start here. Do you understand how a billboard works? Do you know how a billboard works? Nod your head up and down, Dan, if you do. I'm going to be picking on Dan the entire time. If you know how a billboard works, okay, you can get pretty good to know how a Facebook ad works. Let's just do a quick refresher. How does a billboard work? One, you have a piece of advertising that's put in front of cars, in front of traffic. Okay, so you've got your ad and you've got your traffic. Now, here's a question. What makes this thing produce revenue for the business? Is it who's driving by on the freeway or what the billboard says? What is it? has everything to do with what is on the piece of advertising that people see. I see billboards where I would never do anything. Like I'd be like, oh, well, that's garbage. I would never. And as an advertiser, I got to tell you, one of the things that I hate about me is that I'm always looking at advertising, being like, oh, that's crappy advertising. That won't work. Right. It's about what is on the advertising itself. Now, does everybody on the freeway have to buy from you for your advertising to work? No, absolutely not. We're going to, in fact, I have a formula and we'll show you how many need to buy from you for it to work. But the point is, I tell marketers again and again, a gifted offer beats a gifted pen. Okay. Gary Bencivenga said that. He's one of my, you could call him my idol when it comes to advertising and growing businesses. This is a person who understands what advertising is really meant to do. And the reason I want you to understand and conceptualize your ads this way is because the emphasis belongs where? It belongs on the advertising itself. It belongs on the creative, not on the road that the sign is set on. Okay, now sure, we don't want to put it on a country road where only 2 people are going through. But again, that's kind of like putting a whole bunch of interest and targeting. That's like putting it on a really tiny road. Here, we've got a lot of people going by. And so then the math starts to work in our favor. So this is how we want to conceptualize local Facebook advertising. Now, it does take some, we should sit and think about, okay, well, I get how a billboard works. I get that. Well, what about Facebook? Because Facebook does look at your advertising, whether you're a national company or a local company. They will look at your advertising. And what specifically are they looking at? How do they see your ad? Because they're not a person, right? Well, I want to stick with this idea of the billboard so we don't complicate things more than they really need to be. So when we have a billboard, we know that that's our piece of advertising. On Facebook, we also have an ad. Okay, so that's one. So we know we need an ad. Number 2, the freeway. So we've got a big highway, 5 lanes on each side, throwing a lot of traffic by our ad. That's good. The audience on Facebook, that's our freeway. Okay. And then how much traffic? That means, listen, if it's always rush hour and there's tons of cars going by all the time, that would be a good thing for advertising. But you can fluctuate the volume of your traffic by how much money you're able to spend. All right. Now, these are the 3 things. So the 3 things that we're talking about are your creative, so your ad, your audience, so how many people and who they are, and then your ad budget. I'm sorry, that's how many people. Okay. And where those 3 things oversect is when you start getting leads. And what we're looking for when you are doing your advertising is a perfect overlap that creates a perfectly symmetric gap like you're seeing right there. This is what's called your audience offer match. Okay, audience offer match. And I'll explain what that means here in just a second. But it is also true that where those things overlap, if they do not intersect, you're going to lose. Your creative, meaning your offer, if it does not overlap with your audience and your budget, you're going to lose. You're not going to get the results you want. And here's some of the symptoms that you might be experiencing. You might see a lot of people clicking on it. You might get a lot of reach. You might get a lot of leads even sometimes, but nobody is converting. You might be getting cheap leads, okay? But nobody's converting. You need to have a perfect intersect of these 3 things for you to have a winning formula. Okay, now my point is this: a good piece of advertising crafted with the end prospect in mind is doing 99% of the work. Okay, that last 1% of the work is just making sure that you get folks on the freeway. Okay, we do not need to overcomplicate our advertising on Facebook more than this. We really don't. I mean, I know you've probably never heard of it explained like this before. I know probably any agency that you've ever worked with before has said, well, we've got a specific way that we target those people. We have got saved data from other clinics. We have got remarketing campaigns that will do this and that. And guys, that's a sales pitch. Okay. That's a sales pitch that is designed to veil how it actually works and how simple it actually is. All right. Let me see and just make sure I am having some. Need to make sure everybody's muted. There we go. Thank you. All right. So now that we have the conceptual idea of how this actually works, what are the basics of good advertising as it is on Facebook and everything else? This applies to everything. What I'm going to show you right now applies to Facebook, radio, TV, newspaper. It doesn't matter. These are the basics of good advertising. A good piece of advertising will always, 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 always speak with one specific person in mind. I saw a piece of advertising yesterday on a piece of mail that came to my house, and it was for an acupuncture clinic, and they said, we help with all of these things, digestive issues, pain, tendonitis, like all of these things. Save $75 on your first visit. That was the piece of advertising. And I wanted to know who is the person that gave that clinic the advice to spray and pray. That's a spray and pray piece of advertising. When you do your advertising, you need to speak to one specific person. And I'll show you some examples here in a minute. So this is not just me teaching. We're doing a little bit of teaching at the same time with some examples. Okay. You need a piece of advertising that demonstrates the problem that you solve and then builds interest in a solution. Okay. Now I didn't put this on the slide, but if you're taking notes, let me just tell you a quick formula that I learned a while back about how to build interest. B plus C equals I. Benefit plus curiosity equals interest. Okay, I know you've probably had agencies say, "Hey, help me with, help me with making a video or whatever it is," and they say, "Well, just make it interesting." Well, great. I don't know how to make things interesting. A benefit and then some curiosity will interest an end prospect. That's not in this presentation. I just thought to myself, hey, if I'm going to tell these guys to build interest, I probably should deconstruct how to do that so it's not so theoretical, but demonstrate the problem and build interest in the solution. And then have one concise, clear call to action. The primary reason why most websites don't really grow your business is because there's too many purposes per page. Websites are great, and publishing blogs, content, everything like that, that's great. That's fantastic. But so many times you'll see on one page all of these different things that really all they do is distract your prospects, right? So these are basics to good advertising. And honestly, this is 90% of the equation, okay? Speak to a specific person, niche down, demonstrate the problem and build interest in a solution, and then have one clear, concise call to action, all right? So let's take a look at an example, all right? And you remember those three, the three bubbles that oversected. I'm going to use the same color. So in this case, the orange, I believe, is the audience. So do we create the ad to a specific person? Well, this ad only speaks to people with sciatica pain. So if somebody has shoulder pain, knee pain, and they saw this, are they going to pay attention to this piece of advertising? No, they will not. Okay. So that is piece number one. Piece number two, do we offer something that they want? I hate to break it to you guys, but a consultation is not something that people want. Not in lead generation, it's not. Maybe if they're in front of you, if you're at a screening at a health fair or something like that. By the way, the dynamics of selling change when you are person to person. So I'm teaching you how this works from computer to computer. All right. The dynamics change. So in this case, we're giving away a free pain relief session. Okay. Honestly, for something along, I mean, the actual campaign that we use for sciatica performs much better. And we talk a lot about spinal decompression. But that's an offer that some type of treatment to alleviate the pain is an offer that people with sciatica pain would be interested in. All right. And then are we giving it enough budget? Well, there's nowhere on here that you're going to see the budget. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell you $40 a day. Okay. That is the minimum. That's where we want to be. Where do I get that number? If you were to look at at all of our clinics across the US, over 100 of them, and you were to see what their average lead cost is now, some places, if you're in Los Angeles or whatever, different markets are going to have higher lead costs. That will happen. That's just how it works. But across the board, our average lead cost, I think right now is like $21. So if you spend $40 a day, you're going to average almost 2 leads a day or 60 leads a month, something along those lines. Okay. So give yourself enough budget to get feedback. There's nothing like operating on a shoestring budget whenever you're doing advertising. If you don't have that money to spend, wait. Don't spend your money on advertising. Figure out the boots on the ground approaches to get your revenue up first. Okay, that's option one. Option two is if you can't spend $40 a day over the month, spend $40 a day over over 2 weeks. In other words, if you could spend, so what would that be? $40 a day, that's $600 over 2 weeks. Okay. If you only have $600 to spend on your advertising, don't spread that over 30 days. Spread it over 14. Okay. So that's just a note on budget. So here, that's an example. So the big question is, I've just shown you what looks to be a really good ad. Okay. It kind of follows the criteria, but how do you know? How do you actually know? How do you know objectively? Math, black and white. How do you know objectively whether or not an ad works? This is something that you will never hear anywhere else. You will want to write this down. You will become smarter than any agency with the formula, with the numbers I'm about to show you. All right. The numbers that you need to know. Number one, a click-through rate of 1% or better. Okay. Now, I know that when you start seeing acronyms and math and all that kind of stuff, we start getting really crazy. Here's all that means. When your ad goes out into Facebook land and Facebook shows it to 1,000 people, we need 10 people to click on it. So that's only 10. 1,000 people drive by the billboard, only 10 of them need to be interested in what it says. Okay. Now, if there's more, if there's 20, that's okay. But only 10 is the minimum. That's where we need to make sure that we start. So that's number one. Number two is opt-in rate, 10 to 20%. Now, so the opt-in rate, just so we make sure. So of the 10 people who clicked, we want 1 to 2 people to say, sign me up. I want in on that free treatment or that discounted treatment, whatever it is. 1 to 2%, or 1 to 2 leads out of the 10 people. Why wouldn't we go higher than 20%? Wouldn't it make sense that I would be happy if the opt-in rate was 40%? Meaning of the 10 people who saw the ad and were interested, 4 of them said, I want that. Give me that. I don't believe that. 1 second, guys. Sorry. We've just got some audio coming in from somewhere else. There we go. I think that should be okay. Okay. Sorry, guys. Makes sense. How do we know if it's working or not? The numbers we need to know. Okay. 1% we talked about, 10 to 20%. Now, I don't want over 20% because that starts to get into the territory of cheeseburger traffic. Okay. Meaning, hey man, that offer that you put out was too good. Okay. That means that if it's higher than 20%, a lot of times that means that the leads that you're generating might not be qualified. Okay. This is why a lot of times when you're straight chiropractic and you're offering, a discounted exam, the problem, or not exam, adjustment. The problem is anybody who's anybody, the joint proved this. I mean, for most people, they're interested in adjustment, but they're not interested in getting better. Okay. These are people whose problem has not been severe enough for them to really care. But hey, if they'll fly by night. And anyway, the point is, this is the formula. I want you to tattoo this on your arm, write it on your forehead when you see in the morning, whatever it is. The qualified lead formula, a 1% click-through rate, and then a 10 to 20% opt-in rate is going to give you the best qualified leads, not quality leads. Okay. Quality leads I call those referrals. Okay. A qualified lead does not yet have trust. A quality lead that's referred from somebody else, that person has borrowed credibility. You have borrowed credibility. And there's a distinguishment, because if you try and grow your business with qualified leads, okay, leads coming from Facebook and things like that, but you're thinking they should convert easily, you're going to lose. You will lose. But if you go in understanding, hey, right now these people are interested, let's start them on date number 1, not date number 4. Okay, this is the formula you need to know. All right, so I'm going to take a quick break. I want to know, how are we doing? Any questions so far? I can go ahead and man the chat, or you can unmute if you're responsible, and you can mute back when we come back. If you have any questions, I just want to know am I getting too complicated? Am I making this harder than it needs to be? How are we doing?
Looks good.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
All right. Awesome. Thanks for the feedback. That's very helpful for me. All right. Let's keep going. Oh, we got people chiming in now. All right. You know how ads work. Okay. And honestly, you know more than the agencies now. But let's make sure that we're on the same page before we get too far into this thing. All right. Facebook marketing is not a vending machine. All right. And I want, the reason I use this analogy is because when you got a vending machine, you take your money, you go in, you give your money, and you get an M&Ms or some Doritos, whatever it is, and boom, instant gratification, you got what you wanted. That is not Facebook marketing. Okay. Facebook marketing will be a culmination of finding the right audience offer match. Okay. This happened to me about 3 months ago. We were helping a chiropractor out of Atlanta. Awesome guy, amazing doctor. Here is his problem. Within a half a mile of his practice are 20 to 30, I'm not kidding, maybe it was a mile, other chiropractic practices, and they were marketing heavily. And I said, hey, doc, I mean, these types of offers that they're doing, you can't do those. You got to do something else. You need an audience offer match that's not being exploited right now. All right. So an audience offer match. And we'll talk about this. This whole thing's a learning experience. So we'll uncover this a little bit more. Consistent touch points with leads. Okay. You're going to see a graph that shows you how consistent touch points with leads will actually help you. By the way, I wrote a book on it. This book that I wrote is all about the follow-up process, consistent touch points with leads. It's called New Patient School, the how-to guide for converting more leads into patients. Okay. I know a little bit about the process of converting leads into patients. All right. Various niches. If your business is siloed into just one thing, you better hope you're the only doc in town. Okay. And then timing. Timing is a, I have a silly doctor right now, just a silly doctor who came in, and 2 weeks after he he signed up for our services, he said, well, I haven't gotten an ROI in 2 weeks. We've only gotten 2 patients in the door, and this is not working. And I said, what are you talking about, man? It was the most bizarre conversation. Who's going to flip their practice in 2 weeks and get all of the success that you wanted from advertising in 2 weeks? That's ridiculous. And no time did I ever say, hey, this is how it works. You're going to get, I mean, this thing, you flip the light switch and 2 weeks later, you're good to go. Because he started complaining after a week. It wasn't a fit. All right. And I'm sure there's more than that, but let's just make sure. The point right here is I just want you to make sure that you have the right perspective when you come into any type of advertising. Okay. People are interested right now. They'll also be interested 30 days from now, 60, 90. Okay. Here's what success actually looks like. Okay. And this is having done this for 7 years, having over 100 clinics. This is what it actually looks like. Okay. It's not that. It's more like surfing. Okay. But it is a lot easier. I've tried to surf. It's not that easy. But here's what I mean by that. Success is like surfing. No two waves, no two offers are always the same. Meaning if you say, hey, well, Sam, how much do leads cost? How much do leads cost? I'll give you an average over, 100 marketplaces, but is that representative of yours? It might be less. It might be more. Okay. And it might be less or more based on whatever offer you're choosing. So no two offers will always be the same. The best surfers take lessons. Okay. Learning skills. You guys have all proven that you have the stuff. You're all here. And even with my crappy scheduling and planning, you're still here. I apologize for that again. If you came on late, we've got a lot more people on now that were on here when we started. That's my goof up. I'm sorry. All right. If you miss a wave, there's another one coming. Okay. Meaning if one offer doesn't hit the way you wanted it to, try the next. Try the next. You're fine. Learning requires practice. Day 45 is always going to be better than day 1. Okay. So where you start, that's not where you're going to finish. Okay. Before long, you will ride every wave every time. Once you have the skills, you can become bulletproof. We have clinics that it does not matter what campaign they run. As soon as those leads start to flow, they are going. They know what they're doing. Okay. So don't sacrifice what you want most, what you want now for what you want most. What you want now is, oh, I want all the money in the world. What you want most is a successful, thriving practice. Okay. If you don't get I want all the money right now on day 14, don't quit. Learn the skills, learn to ride the wave. Okay. It doesn't happen overnight, but here's some numbers that you might want to consider. Okay. This is objective information that I've gotten again over years of doing this. And this is what it typically looks like. Your first, your first 30 days, you usually see a 3 to 5. It's not uncommon to see a 3 to 5% conversion of your leads. Now, if you get 100 leads, that means you're only getting 3 to 5 patients. It's not great, but this is your 30 days. Okay. Day 30 through 60. If you stick with it, if you're doing everything, you're managing your stuff like we've been talking about, it's 5 to 20%. Now, the first 30 days was 3 to 5. That's not that big of a gap. But notice there's a huge gap between 5% and 20%. It's kind of weird. There was actually a study put out, I think like a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, and talked about the average buying cycle of a lead for a service company. And it was 42 days. And oddly enough, the feedback that we've gotten from our users is something's happening about 6 weeks out where things just kind of start to stack up and build. And so that's why in some cases, you start to see this culmination effect, an inflection point where the leads from the previous 30 days and the leads from today start to kind of layer on each other. And then, all of a sudden, hey, well, we converted 20% this month. That's crazy. And then Days 60 to 90 is where you start to see our average output rate. So average output rate, if you follow what we're talking about today, if you follow what's in this book, is 20 to 27%. 27% is the actual number, but we give some variance, 20 to 27%. Okay. That's the output at the bottom. That's how many new patients. That's not how many leads, none of that. Okay. By the way, a lot of what you see here, all that success is because of what you did here. All right. So don't give up too early. And by the way, this cycle starts over and over again. Every time you switch from one service provider to the next, and every time you change what you're doing, science isn't done that way. Science changes one thing to prove a hypothesis. Every time you change an ad company, you're changing your ads, you're changing your offers, you're changing the people who are working on it. Everything changes. You start over again. Okay. So, and you know, you need to stick with the process long enough to learn how you succeed in it. All right. This is Ray Pevey. Okay. And the reason I want to share his story directly after that line of thought is because Ray actually, like you, Dan, Ray has a practice in, I want to say Arcadia, California. I think that's it. And a guy in practice for a long time, 20, 30 years, something like that. And when the pandemic hit, he was in a tough position. Okay. His practice went from like, I think it was 160 visits a week down to 80. It's terrified. Like a lot of people in business for themselves, not knowing what to do, confused, out of control, just really not having the success and having, you know, just not, it's terrifying to be in that situation. So he came onto Patient Stream and he started using our software and our systems and what we were doing. And his first month and a half to 2 months weren't fantastic. But he kind of had the attitude of, I have to make this work. Not like, hey, does this work or not? It's like, it doesn't matter. I have to make this work. And so one day he was walking by the front desk when they were calling one of the leads that he got. And he said, I don't remember the name of the person at the front desk, but so-and-so, I hear you talking to a lead. Can you transfer that person over to me real quick? I want to talk to them. So he said, hey, this is Dr. Pevey. I understand you're struggling with whatever the condition is. And I just wanted to let you know we can help you. I'm sorry that you're going through that. I'll be happy to see you personally when you come in. When's the appointment? Oh, Thursday, on Thursday. And he did that. And that person came in, signed up for care. And so he said, well, this is interesting. He tried it again and again and again. All of a sudden, he goes from not really converting many patients to, in the next month and a half, he added back. So we went from 80 visits a week up to 220, added $50,000 in cash services every month to his practice, and totally solved the problem. But he could have blamed a lot of things for the lack of success in that first month and a half, but he didn't give up. He had to make it work. He was and by the way, you know, he's in a generation where he understands you got to stick with it. You got to figure it out. And he asked questions from us. And now he's awesome. He's got the kind of success he really wants. Okay. Awesome. Here's what you need to, and actually we've got Dr. Samji. I don't think you can hear
it. It's funny. I don't even know how this patient stream works. Like they know how to find the right person that's suffering and bring those patients in, which is amazing.
Can you guys hear that? Okay. I don't know. Sometimes the audio doesn't pipe in, sometimes it does. But the point is, you know, those two guys really understand how to make this work. So I'm going to go ahead and stop for a minute, and I'm going to field any questions you might have at this point. I want to make sure that I look at whatever's in the chat here. Let me put this back up here. In terms of touch points, it is actually, there's a piece of data, and I'll try and quote it, but basically, I think it's 85% of your sales are made after the 5th touch point. Okay. So what does that mean? If people don't convert now, it doesn't mean that they're not interested. It just means that they're, busy, they're whatever the case may be. So it might not be a perfect fit for where they're at. So let me go ahead and we'll move forward just a little bit. You guys, has this been valuable so far?
Yeah,
For sure.
Awesome. Again, the whole goal here is to pull back the veil of mystery that a lot of people try and put within the realm of advertising. And it's not really true. It's not there. It's fake. Okay. It's there again. It's a sales pitch. It's there again to see if they can take advantage of a couple people. I'm not saying that there's not agencies that don't provide valuable services. Obviously, there's tons of them. And I'm not the only one. My agency is not the only one. There's tons of them that are great, but with this information and understanding how this works, you guys are going to be the best consumers possible. You'll be able to take control of your marketing better and more responsibly than anybody before. Do you need something? Okay. I'll come in just a minute. Thank you. Leave. That's Mia. She's my daughter. And okay. Bye, honey. She comes in to say hi to dad when he's at work sometimes. That's fine. All right. This has been valuable. Oh, somebody said hi, Mia. Hi. All right. So let's do a quick recap here, guys. Let's jump back into this, see what we've learned. First, we do know how ads work. Okay. You guys know how ads work better than a lot of people who do them for you. You know how to get qualified leads. We talked about that formula. Okay. And you have the right understanding of the nature of ads too. That's important to your success. It really is. Okay. If you treat it like a vending machine, you're going to be very disappointed. All right. And then we have proper expectations about the process. So what's left? What is left? Well, at the beginning of this, I said I was going to tell you how to take control of your marketing. So I think that's probably the lacking step here. Okay. You know what to do. But question, do you know how to do that? Do we know how to do this? No. I think when it comes to the technical aspect of creating ads and doing all that, there is some things that you need to learn. Okay. So let me ask you a question. If there was a way to bypass all the learning, so I'm talking about how to use Facebook Ads Manager. If any of you have been in there, you'll know that it's a little bit of a cluster. Okay. How to create compliant ads. I mean, this changes even for us. This changes all the time. Okay. How to come up with proven offers and how to perfect the setup of a campaign. And we're talking about setup a campaign. You're talking about the campaign level, what objective you should pick. I might be saying things that are completely gibberish, right? But there's a lot of technical things that go into it. If there was a way for you to bypass all of that, would you want to know about it? Would you want to know about it? David says, I do. Anybody else? Or is it just David?
Yeah.
Dan does. Amber does. All right. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. This is where we kind of get into some fun stuff. So some of you know of my company. Some of you, maybe this is the first time you've heard of it, but my company is called Patient Stream. And we actually have two things. But today I'm focusing on my DIY, do it yourself, marketing platform. All right. And just like to be very blunt, I'll show you what it does. It gives you the ability to launch Facebook ads in just 3 clicks. And literally, so I said 10 seconds. I didn't sit there with a stopwatch, but it is a matter of seconds, probably quicker. If it depends on how fast your internet speed is, right? In just 10 seconds. You don't have to get into the ads manager at all. Okay. It gives you over 20 new patient niches and 100 different ad campaigns. So we talked about all those billboards. Imagine anytime you put up a billboard, you'd be like, hey, well, I know that billboard works, so I'm just going to put it up. You just click it, boom, it goes. You didn't have to think about what the offer is. You didn't have to think about what the images look like. They're just there ready to go. Okay. Pre-built follow-up automations. Somebody was asking about touch points. I'm not sure why that bogged me up so much, but obviously a touch point, follow-up emails, text messages, auto scheduling, voicemail drops, all those things has pre-built, has all that stuff pre-built. So as soon as leads get generated, they start getting communication from you right away. Okay. And it has the ability for you to learn this software in just 2 hours and in 6 minutes. Now, I didn't always have this course. In fact, I delayed this training until I finished that course. And I wanted to put together something like what you've gone through today, something that was straightforward, very tactical in nature. So you could go in, use our platform, and run ads yourself. So here's how it works. Okay. If you were to go ahead and get signed up today, you'd get immediate access into my digital program called New Patient School. Now, my book, it's called New Patient School. This course is called New Patient School. I'm taking you to school on how to get new patients with advertising. Okay. That course, all told, is 2 hours and 6 minutes. I'm not talking a big investment in time, but I am talking about a very straightforward approach to understanding advertising the way we have here, and then understanding how to use the tool so you can take complete control. Okay, that's step number one. Then step number two is once you've gone through that New Patient School course, that program, you'll be able to jump in and say, hey, look at all these. If you look on the screen right there, you've got a couple knee decompression ads, laser treatment, what is that? Pulse wave, so shock wave. You've got all those things, and they're there, they're click and ready to go. We call them click campaigns. Okay. Having Patient Stream, when it comes to running your ads, it's kind of like having the passcode, the cheat codes to Mike Tyson's Punch Out. Now, when I was a kid, so I'm 41, and Mike Tyson's Punch Out came out when I was probably, I don't know, 8, something like that. And man, what a fun game, but it's always so annoying when you'd beat like the first level and then you'd lose because it wasn't like the games today. You had to like go through and beat everybody again. But if you got the cheat codes, you could go to the very end. Learning Facebook ads and how to run ads is kind of like having the cheat codes to Mike Tyson's Punch Out. And not only that, it's kind of like showing up after you got all the cheat codes and then being able to knock out Mike Tyson with the first punch. Okay. And you get the ability to do all that for just $4.97 a month. Okay. We do have an onboarding fee. Okay. We'll talk about that here in just a second, but it's just month to month. All right. It's month to month after that. If you're able to stick around based on your utility of it, then that's what we're going for. We are going for a product focused success. Meaning if I build a product that's good enough, you will have the success and you will stay. That comes in 2 parts. Learning how to understand advertising and use the tool. That's why we got the school. That's why we got New Patient School. And then 2, the tool itself, the ability to launch the ads, enough conditions to keep your practice, full of patients and all those things. And that is, that's why people stick around with us. Okay. And like I said, I've got something pretty special for you guys here in just a minute. So if you want to get the New Patient cheat codes, okay, it's pretty simple. You've been on this here with me today. And by the way, I'll open this back up to questions about advertising, about patients, or about anything you want here in just a second. But if you want to do this, here's how I like to take the next step. I just like to do a demo. Okay. If you want to do a demo with me, you just go to mypatientstream.com/demo and you set up a call with me. We'll talk about your practice, answer any questions you might have, and then I'll show you the platform. If it's a fit, great. If not, that's okay too. Okay. So here's the deal. We've got, I don't know how many, last I looked, we had like 17 people on this training. Okay. If you schedule today, I will waive $500 off of your onboarding fee. Okay. So instead of $997, you pay, I guess that's $497, right? I will do that, but you got to schedule today. And not only that, to the first 3 people who sign up, I will send a print version copy of my book, New Patient School. This book is awesome. It's got scripts, it's got protocols, it's got everything that I have learned These are real cheat codes on how to have success converting leads into patients. Okay. I will personally mail these to you for the first 3 people who set up a demo today. I'll send those out to you. So you can go ahead and open up another browser, another tab in your browser if you want. Sign up for that demo. Like I said, the first 3 people are going to get this book. I will send it to you. And what questions do you guys have?